Yes, we're a plastic collection company. We've been running since 2004. With the help of the national parks, they helped us set up the business. We collect plastic from farms, predominantly from farms. We look after about 240, currently 240 farms, based in either the Yorkshire, Durham, Northumberland regions. We work closely with a company called Agriplass based at Scarborough, who recycle the plastic for us and produce drainage panels. So the plastic is being reused again, which we wouldn't be doing this business if it wasn't for Agriplass. With the cost of landfill going up and up and up, we're finding more and more people are wanting to recycle the plastic because it's now becoming cheaper to recycle than it is to put into landfill. We have a set way of doing things because naturally you can't recycle things unless it's separated. Certain plastics have different properties, and Econoplast need the plastic separated. But we worked out a scheme with them, a collection scheme whereby we can keep it separate, and we keep them plenty of plastic going in to help them grow. Unfortunately now they're growing so fast that we're having a job to keep up with them, so anybody who wants to recycle, there's a great opportunity now for them to get in touch and we can sort something out for them hopefully.
Well, we'll go into the details of the scheme and what what the offer is to farmers really. But before we do that, you've got here some examples. So perhaps you could just talk it through the kind of plastics that you'll take.
We're stood near a heap of haylage bales or silage bales here. Silage wrap is a big problem on farms. There's such a lot of it about, and especially this current season. 2012, it's been so wet this summer that farmers are finding it very difficult to make hay, and so there's going to be more and more of this plastic of these bales wraps like this.
Can I just ask you, Dave, as a sort of a non-farming person, why a few years ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago, we didn't see silage wrapped up in bags, did we?
No, we didn't. No.
Why has this happened?
Well, I think really, as farming's progressed, at that time they used to make a lot of what they called clamp silage, wet silage. They used to cut it direct and take it and clamp it into big heaps. But when you do that, you finish up with a lot of liquid waste coming out of the bottom of the heap. That was causing big problems for a lot of farms which haven't got very good drainage systems.
Right, so it would go into watercourses.
So it's going into watercourses, causing a big environmental problem. And then somebody realised that possibly when the big balers came out, they could maybe wrap the bales, should I say. So they started wrapping this grass into big bales. And again, a lot of the small farmers realised then that it was a lot easier to handle because they could carry the bale straight to the stock, just take the wrap off, and they had feed there. It was there and ready. It also meant that if it was a wet time, like it has been this year, and they couldn't make hay to feed to the younger stock, but they could get it to halfway there, dry grass, they could wrap that and produce a very, very good feed to feed to young stock. The horse fraternity, again, it's worked very well on the horse fraternity because where they used to buy small bales of hay, they now will buy big bales of haylage.
Right.
Which is, is dry silage, in other words. It's maybe been cut 3 or 4 days before it's baled. And again, it's good feed.
But to solve one environmental problem, i.e. the drainage problem, you've kind of created
You've got another problem with all this plastic, yeah.
another one. I mean,
That's-
what was the thought at the beginning as to what you would do? Because obviously people would know that soon you're going to be building up huge amounts of plastic
I
waste.
don't think anybody really thought of the consequences, to be honest with you. At that time, it wasn't really a big issue because people used to just take it straight into landfill, or in fact used to burn it behind the buildings, etc., etc.
Right.
And you know, they didn't realise what damage they were doing to the atmosphere really by burning this plastic.
And presumably that's not allowed now, is it?
It isn't allowed at all now. The
No.
ruling came in 2004, stopping us from burning and burying plastic on
Right.
farm.
Right.
So we've got to deal with it properly.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people are still using maybe skips or sending it to landfill. But again, because landfill is getting more and more expensive, because the government don't want it to go into landfill, it's becoming very costly.
Mm.
And we found that more and more people are willing to just, they haven't got to spend a lot of time sorting it or whatever, but if they're shown what to do and have a simple system, they can recycle it a lot cheaper than they can put it into landfill.
Yeah. So we've got the silage plastic, the bags here. What else have you
We've
got
got the
here?
silage things. We have the fertiliser bags. These are what the fertiliser comes in for going onto the land.
So they're a bit like the dumper bags that you
That's
get
what
for
they are.
building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's 18 bags in that bag. 18 bags inside it.
Okay.
So very easy to store. They can just
Right.
store them like that. You've got your big drums. There's disinfectant. There's hypochlorite formalin, which is used for feed for animals.
And do you require farmers to wash these
They've
out?
got to be washed out. They must be washed out, especially, well, all of them. They've got to be washed out for them to be recycled.
Right.
You've got your spray containers, for your arable crops and your grassland. You know, your weed killers, your herbicides, your fungicides, and everything else. And again, they need washing out. But once they're washed out, and in fact, there's new ruling coming out. In fact, it's been out a long while now. But on the back of some of the containers, you've got the hazardous waste signs like that.
Yeah.
In fact, it's becoming a necessity now for farmers to, as they wash them out, they need to obliterate those signs with a marker pen,
Right.
or rip the label off, whichever they want to do, to show that they have been handled and washed,
Okay.
and they are clean,
Right.
and they can be recycled.
Right.
So that's those. We recycle feed bags. A lot of people are on bulk feed now, but there is still farmers, small farmers, who buy 4 or 5 or 6 ton of creep feed in bags and things like that. Especially the pig farmers, they buy all the creep feeds and the first and second rations in bags. These can all be recycled, and again, very easy to do. You can either put bags in bags like we do here, or you can bundle them into 50s or 100s with a band round them, and they can go straight in, be mixed in with the plastic for recycling, you know. Silage wraps, going back to silage wraps, we have
Yep.
a very simple system really that we've devised, and as long as the farmer doesn't drop it in all the muck and the mig round the buildings, and just takes the wrap off before he drops it in front of the feeding barriers, he can give it a shake, roll it up into a sausage and store it in a dump bag. And as long as that dump bag's under cover, under a lean-to somewhere in the corner, it can be stored like that, and it's ready for recycling.
Right.
Very simple, very easy, keeps things tidy, he's not kicking about the yard. You've got the mineral buckets and things like that minerals come in for feeding the cattle through winter. They can be recycled. Again, all they've got to be is quickly swilled out, stacked, and taking the metal handles off them if they have metal handles on, and they can be recycled. So you know, the only problem ones we have got, and we're still looking at, and everybody's in the same boat on this, is string and net that goes around the bales, that holds the bales together, and there isn't really a lot are many companies that can deal with that. In fact, I don't know any company that can deal with it to recycle it properly. So that sort of material is being looked at as going from incineration to produce energy in the power stations and things like that. It's still being looked at, and it's going to be a year or two before it's sorted. So that is having to be going to landfill. There's no other choice for it to go into landfill. But all the rest of the plastic can be recycled.
How does the system actually work? If there was a farmer watching this and wanting to get involved, what would be sort of required from them?
Well, what they need to do if they want to get involved in recycling is to give such as ourselves a ring. We would discuss it with them over the phone. I mean, I was involved as a farm manager for 27 years prior to setting this business up, so I know the ins and outs of how farms work and this and the other, how much fertiliser is used, etc. So it's very easy for me to talk to people over the phone, and we can work out what it's going to cost them to be able to recycle. And I think they'll be very pleasantly surprised.
I mean, would you say it's less than if they were having to take it elsewhere?
Yeah, it is, because you see, the thing is, with such a silage wrap and things like that, when you're on a farm, and again, speaking from experience on this, you tend to take the wrap off and you throw it in a heap in a corner, and it's outside with all the elements there thrown at it, wind, rain, mud, everything.
Yeah.
When they come to want to shift that into landfill, so a skip or whatever, it weighs twice as much as what it does if it's just stored in a bag undercover under a lean-to. And when you're having to pay for landfill, you pay by the tonne. So if you can imagine that a tonne of silage wrap stored outside will only consist of maybe 350 bales, whereas if you store it like I'm talking about, you're talking about 600 to 700 bales in a tonne. You know, it makes such a big difference to the costs, and we've tried to keep the costs sensible as far as charging for collection and recycling.
And of course, they've got the time saving of not having to deal with it.
That's exactly it. They've got to be willing to work with you. We try and work very closely with people and such like, and try and keep the job as simple as possible. Depending on the size of farm, the big farms, we might be looking at calling in 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah.
The small farms, only once a year, you know.
Yeah.
So again, we just work it in. As regards such as fertiliser bags and things like that, again, it's such a simple thing to do, is as you're using fertiliser. When you finish at the end of the day, or when there's a wet day in front of you, you can stuff bags in bags.
Yeah.
Which then reduces the volume of plastic kicking about, and they can be stored. You don't have to buy any fancy containers to store them, and you use what you've got on farm. Same with the spray containers on the big arable farms. These fertiliser bags, if they're washed out properly, and I can see that the farmer is doing the job properly, I'm quite happy for him to wash them out and then store them in a big bag like this.
Right.
So that again, it stops it being kicked about all over the place.
Yeah.
Just our motto really is keep it simple. Just keep it simple, and if you keep it simple, you keep things tidy, and it doesn't cost a fortune. And you know you're doing a proper job.
And you've got 200 farmers already who are obviously, delighted with the service. But
That's
you've
right.
got capacity for more.
Oh, we have a lot of capacity, and the nice thing is that the company that we're working with, who I mentioned before, Agriplass, are growing and growing. And they're based in the North Yorkshire Moors National Park at Scarborough. And it's lovely to be able to see plastic from the moors area going into somewhere local. And being made into something.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant.
It's really nice to see that. You feel as though you're doing a worthwhile service for people. So, if anybody is interested, please just give us a ring and we'll have a chat.
Can you give us your website address?
The best thing to do really is to either drop me a quick email.
Okay, we'll put that on the...
Which is david@agriplass.co.uk, or my mobile, because I think speaking to people face to face, I'm a big believer in seeing people and discussing it face to face, and then they know they're dealing with. And if they're not happy, then that's fair enough, you know. There's no need to go ahead with it. But my mobile is 0777 342 6821, and either of those two means is the best way of contacting us. We have got a website. We don't tend, I must admit, we don't tend to use it a great deal. It's there, but you know, we've been involved with that many different projects and trying to keep it up to date. Unfortunately, I'm a practical sort of bloke, and I'm out in the countryside all week long, and the last thing I want to do is faff about doing computer work and everything on the weekend.
I'm sure farmers can relate to that.
Yeah.
David, thank you very much for giving us an excellent overview of your recycling business.
Right, thank you very much.
Cheers.